Hey everyone, Will the Trill here. The past couple weeks, I've been having this vision of this alternate reality, this alternate timeline of the first 10 years of my life. This alternate timeline to where my grandfather on my mother's side of the family never got sick and never died. Just a quick story. My grandfather on my mother's side of the family, he was born in 1918, but sadly, in September of 1993, he got sick. Around 1993, he got sick. But sadly, in December of 93, he lost his battle and he passed away. He was 75 years old. My grandfather on my mother's side, he was a Navy veteran. He wanted to join the Air Force, the United States Air Force, but he was too young, so he joined the Royal Canadian Air Force. I don't think he flied an aircraft, but all I know is that he was in the Royal Canadian Air Force and he was in the United States Navy during World War II. And obviously in August 1st of 92, I was born. 93 of August 1st of 93, I turned a year old, and my sister, she's a year and a half older than me, and she was 2. And I was only 1 year and 1 month old. If you want to word it differently, I was 13 months old when my grandfather on my mother's side passed away. But according to my mother and my uncles, he was a great man. He was funny. He was a really nice man. I really wish I had the chance to know him, but I didn't. I was only 13 months old. I didn't get a chance. His name was William Strumbos. I was named after him. I was named after my grandfathers on both sides. Both grandfathers on both sides of the families, they were both named William as a first name. I was named after both of them. So the past couple weeks I've had this vision of this alternate reality to where my grandfather, my mother's side, we called him Grandpa S. So the way we worded it, it was grandma or grandpa on each side of the family. It was either so we used the first letter of their last name, Grandma S, Grandpa S. So that's the way we call our grandparents. I had this vision. Obviously, I said it already, but he didn't die. He was alive. He was able to. He lived to watch my sister and I grow up. But I envisioned that things were a lot different. That I never went through the abuse that I went through in reality, I envision it begins to where my mother dropped my sister and I off to Grandma and Grandpa S's house for them to watch us. This was in 1997. Sorry. I was 5 years old. My sister was 6. With seeing my grandfather's positive, happy energy and personality, his positive personality, always smiling and always having fun with us. Oh, God, I wish this was real. I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking, sorry. So, the abuse that I was starting to go through, my father screaming in my face, him slapping me across my face, like knocking on the top of my head really hard, 5 times, and one time slamming my face into the cast iron steam radiator, and one time slamming me on the floor of a bowling alley lane, because all I was doing was sliding on it. Sidetracking again. I'm sorry. I'm sidetracking again. So Grandpa S, not laying his hands on any of us, not yelling at us. It gave me the urge to tell him what's been happening. Actually, no, wait a minute, no. I looked a little sad. I was sitting at the table, and so Grandpa S, he approached me just to ask me it's like, what's the matter, William? And then I was scared at first, but I was scared to tell anybody. Just like in reality, I regret not speaking up. So in this vision, I said, nothing. And so Grandpa, he very gently he rubs my back and he says, "Look, I notice I see you're a little sad. What's wrong?" And then he just very gently reassures me. He says, "I'm not going to be mad at you. Just tell me what's wrong, okay?" And so I told him the terrible things that were happening to me and my sister. Whenever Dad was angry, he was in a bad mood, and so this was something that Grandpa never knew about my father, that part of my father. And so he was shocked, and then my grandpa was like, "Oh wow, that's terrible. Hey, but don't worry." And then he called over my sister, and then he told my sister the same thing. He said, "Look, I'm not mad at you. Don't be afraid to tell me what's happening, okay? I'm here to help you. I'm here to protect you." And then my sister told him everything as well. That's when something clicked into his mind. That's when something clicked into his mind that he will do anything and everything to protect me and my sister, to make sure both of us were safe. And so he hugged both of us. He held us into his arms, and he said, "Everything's going to be okay. I'm here to protect you." And right when my mother and father went to pick us up, it was after my grandfather called CPS, whatever, that he wants temporary custody of us. And my two uncles who were living with them at the time, he told them, I'm sorry guys, but you're gonna have to leave. Like, I need room for the grandkids. I have to protect them. I'm sorry, but you gotta leave." And he wasn't that pushy with them before when they were growing up, but the way my sister and I were crying and just telling him what's been happening, like, hearing us cry really clicked something in his head. And like, it was like a mission to him since he was a Navy veteran. It was a mission to protect my sister and I at all costs. So he made two of my uncles leave. He called Child Protective Service, CPS, whoever, just to fight for temporary custody of both me and my sister. So my mother and father went to pick us up. And that's where my grandfather, he went outside, and then he told Krista and I to stay inside. Don't go out. Then I could hear him, like, confronting my father. He's like, "Is this true? Are you abusing your kids?" And then Dad was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" So that's when he got really loud. He goes, "They told me everything. How while they were telling me, they started crying. Your kids, they're afraid of you. They're terrified of you." And then he lays his bomb on both of my mother and father. Says, I am fighting for temporary custody of your kids." And then he puts my mother aside, and then he goes, "Dana, since this is happening, why didn't you tell me?" And then my mother told him, "Look, Dad, I was hoping and waiting that he would change. Well, I know he's been hard on the kids, but I've been trying to stop him. I'm trying to get him to change, but he won't change." And that's when Grandpa S., he told her, "You gotta leave this man. He'll never change." And that's when Mom said, "Dad, I'm gonna try to convince him to change. Like, since you're gonna have the kids, I'm gonna convince him to change." And then that's when he tells her, "Are you kidding me? You're gonna choose a man over your kids?" And then Grandpa, he made it abundantly clear. He said, either you divorce him, or you're never seeing your children ever again." And that's when Dad started arguing with him. And that's when I first saw, like, the military toughness and soldier, like, Mo come out of him. He goes, "You get out of here now." Yes, like my grandfather, he 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 was very kind and loving, but if you pushed him, you did not want to mess with him. So, and that's when my father got really angry. Then that's when he said, "Come on, Dana, let's go." So they left. And so Grandpa goes back in the house and said, "It's okay, kids. He's gone. It's okay." And then a while later, my father comes to try and see us, and then my grandfather sees. Before I forget, Grandpa won the battle to get temporary custody of Chris, my sister, and I. And it was one day, a while later, that my father went to try and see us, and so he sees him coming. Grandpa sees him coming. Then he tells me and my sister to get in the back room of the house. Then he leads us into the room. He closes the door behind them. And so Grandpa pulls out a gun, an M1 Garand that he received from serving in the Navy. He pulled it out and he held it in his right hand. And then he demanded my father to leave. He said, "You go now." Then my father was going, "Look, I just want to see my kids, okay? Like, please, Dad." Then he goes, "You're not seeing your kids. They're afraid of you. Since I'm not going to lay my hand on them, you're not going to put your hands on them." And then Dad gets irritated, and that's when Grandpa draws his gun. He points it at him. "You get out of here, or I'll shoot you." Then Dad goes, "Or what? Are you going to kill me? Are you going to kill me for trying to see my kids?" He goes, "All I'm doing is I'm protecting them from you. I'm ashamed of my daughter for choosing you over her kids." He goes, "Now get out of here." And so Dad storms off. He peels out of the driveway in his truck. He goes back inside. He opens the door to the back room and says, "It's all right now, kids." And then I ask in kind of a little scared voice, like, "Is he gone, Grandpa?" Because, "Yes, William, he's gone. You can come out now." Oh my God, I wish this was real. Oh, Grandpa, why did you have to die? Why did you have to get sick? Anyway, sorry about that. I'm sorry. Get a little emotional here. And a couple of years go by from 1997. Now 2 years go by. Now it's 1999. Finally, after 2 years, my mother finally decided that she was ready to divorce my father. Because she came over to the house and she was all bummed out. She was a little upset. It was after my sister and I came home from school. We were dropped off by our school bus. And this is where my grandfather was 80 years old. 80 years old, but still in good health. Even despite his age, he was still tough as nails. So anyway, my mother came over after my sister and I came home from school. And then she said, "Look, Dad, I'm going to divorce him, like, because he shows no signs of changing. Because the last straw was he hit me, and I kind of gasped. I was like, and then hearing that Dad actually hit her, that's what made her leave. And so she packed her things. She left their house while he was at work. And so my mother told him, this happened last night, but I was too scared to leave the night because I was afraid he wouldn't let me leave. And he's at work right now, so that's when I left. And so that's when my grandfather told her, "It's about time, but I'm glad you did. But don't worry, Dana. You can stay here. Your old room is empty, so you can put your stuff in there. I'll let you stay here, along with your kids." Meanwhile, this is when my grandmother's health on my mother's side started to fail, because she was developing COPD after years of smoking. So my mother hugged us, and she was so apologetic. She was emotional. She could, "Oh, kids, I am so sorry I put you through this. I'll never choose a man over both of you again. The biggest mistake I ever made." And then she kissed us, and two years of not living with my father, I felt happier. I felt more encouraged to do what I loved to play. Like, a little side story, like, my grandfather's been looking up autism, like, in books, like, whatever knowledge was known about autism at the time. This was 1999. outside of this house was a really big yard. It was a swing set, and Krista and I were happy. We were having fun. Anyway, so my mother ended up temporarily moving in with Grandma and Grandpa S. But then one day, sometime in 2000, early mid 2000, like dad came storming over to the house. So Grandpa looks out the window. It was, the spring of 2000. Kristen and I were playing, and so Kristen and I were playing outside on the swing set, and I could hear the sound of my father's truck coming up the hill into the driveway. And then I remember saying, "Uh-oh, Dad's here." And so Kristen and I run into the house and through the back door. That's my sister's name. So we run inside into the back door. And so Grandpa, and he tells me and my sister and my mother to go into the back room. Then he closes the door behind us, just to make sure we were safe. And so, Dad approaches the front door, and then once again, Grandpa grabs his gun. And so Dad is asking, "Where's my wife?" And so Grandpa goes, "She doesn't want to see you, now leave." And Dad's like, "Listen, no, I just want to talk to my wife." And I can't see what they said. I can't envision what they said next, but it got intense to where, once again, Grandpa draws the gun, and he's pointing it right at him. It got up to the point to where Grandpa told Dad, "God damn it, Chris, don't make me shoot you. I don't want to shoot you, but I will." And that's when Dad said, "Go ahead and shoot me. You'll be doing me a favor." So that's when Dad started stepping closer, approaching him, kind of in a threatening manner. That's when Grandpa, he pointed the gun away, like right above his shoulder, and fired a warning shot. Once again, Dad told him, "Go ahead, shoot me." And then, finally, Dad gave up, because he knew that Grandpa was serious and killing him if he did anything. So, the first time in my father's life, he lost the battle. I remember sneaking out of the room, despite my mother and my sister trying to stop me. But I look out the window, seeing my father walk away to his truck in the walk of shame. He went into his truck and just slowly started driving away. So I run back into the room when I see Grandpa walk towards the door back inside. He opens the door to the back room where we were hiding. It's okay now, he's gone. We may never see him again. And that was it. My sister and I never see him again. And a little while later, the divorce was finalized. But let me tell you, it was a nasty divorce. But still, my father avoided going over to that house. But it was a nasty divorce. But my mother won full custody of my sister and I. And she got the house they were living in. Then she decided to... Yeah, so the divorce was finalized. Then in 2003, my mother sells the house just to escape from the memories, the dark memories of, for this, not only for herself, but for the sake of my sister and I. So we moved to this house, which is this house, and Friday, June 13th, 2003, with the money that she earned from the divorce. And as the years went by, my sister and I were in high school, and then my sister graduated high school in 2009, and actually, I left this part out. In 2005, 2 years after we moved into this house, we hear from some family members on my father's side that my father committed suicide. He ended up eating a bullet. He was 41 years old when he committed suicide. He just couldn't stand living without my mother. The woman he's ever loved, that he's married, left him, and so he just couldn't take it, so that was it. He committed suicide. So anyway, after that, so my sister graduates high school in 2009, and my grandfather was 91 years old, still in fairly decent health. He's still mobile and stuff. His mind is still sharp, and this was 3 years, not only after my father's suicide, but after my grandmother's death from COPD and natural causes. It was hard for my grandfather, but he knew that he had to be there for my sister and I. Like each, it was just wonderful seeing my grandfather so happy for Kristen and I, for our accomplishments. And then in 2011, I graduate high school, and then my grandfather, I see him smiling, I see being happy for me, and then I remember him saying, "I'm proud of you. You're an amazing grandson, and no matter what you accomplish in life, I am proud of you." couple years later, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 95 years old. And then I never developed complex post-traumatic stress disorder. My sister lived a happier life. I was happy. I wasn't afraid to be truthful. I wish this was real. Why didn't this ever happen? Why did my grandfather have to get sick and then die? It's just not fair. I just wish he never died. I just wish he never got sick. Sadly, this never happened. In reality, this never happened. In reality, I'm this big emotional, mental mess. I'm a mess. I've made mistakes. This isn't fair. Oh, Grandpa S., I wish you never got sick. I wish you never died. I wish you had the chance to watch us grow up and be happy for us, be proud of us. So, this is this vision I've been having for a couple weeks. This alternate reality of where my grandfather never got sick and never died at the age of 75. I imagine him being one hell of a grandfather, protecting my sister and I from our abusive father. He fought tooth and nail. He fought long and hard to keep us safe from him to the very end. Despite his age, he was tough as nails. Once again, I wish this happened. I wish this was real. If this really happened, I wouldn't be in this emotional wreck right now. I wouldn't be suffering from complex PTSD right now. I'd be facing my challenges of living with autism, of course, but I'd be in a much better mental state right now. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you're in this part of the video, if you didn't click away, I really appreciate you not clicking away from this video and you made it this far. I know this is kind of lengthy, it's long, but thank you for those who sticked around in this video. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to let this out and ease my mind. Just let this out, share this vision of this alternate reality. Thank you for watching once again.